You've probably heard about Singapore, the small but mighty lion city, known for its booming economy, world-class education, and high quality of life. Amid towering skyscrapers and a bustling pace of life, it's a land of opportunity where countless people place their hopes for a brighter future. But beneath all that prosperity lies a darker side. A side that has, on rare but haunting occasions, shaken the entire nation. One such tragedy was the heartbreaking disappearance and murder of a little girl named Huang Na, a case that stunned the entire country. In early 2003, Huang Na, born in Fujian, China, was brought to Singapore by her mother with dreams of a better education and a brighter future. Like any child, Huang Na had hopes and dreams. She wanted to become a doctor someday, to help others, and most importantly, to give her hardworking mother a life filled with comfort and happiness. But what no one could have predicted was that this journey of hope would tragically become her final journey. Huang Na, smart, kind, and independent, never got the chance to fulfill her dreams. So what really happened to her? How could such a determined, sweet little girl vanish from the face of the earth? And what horrifying truth lay beneath her mysterious disappearance? Let's unravel this haunting case, piece by piece. Due to family circumstances, Huang Na's mother had to frequently travel between Fujian and Singapore to care for her newborn daughter from another relationship. During those times, young Huang Na was often left to look after herself. Despite being just a child, she quickly learned to be independent and rarely troubled her mother. She was the kind of child any parent would be proud of. But fate's cruel twist didn't give the little girl a chance to grow up. On September 27, 2004, just one day before her 8th birthday, Huang Na waved goodbye to her mother, who was flying back to China for a short 2-week trip. Initially, Huang Na had wanted to go with her, but later decided to stay behind so she wouldn't miss school. Her mother arranged for acquaintances living above a fruit and vegetable distribution center in Pasir Panjang Wholesale Market to look after her in her absence. Despite being away from home, Huang Na was far from lonely. She was well liked by everyone at the market, cheerful, polite, and always full of energy. Because her mother worked in fruit distribution, Huang Na was very familiar with the area and would often help out with deliveries or chat with vendors. Anyone who met her was instantly charmed by her lively personality and respectful manners. But then, on October 10, 2004, something unimaginable happened. That afternoon, Huang Na made a call to her mother from a public payphone. Her voice was cheerful, asking for a new pair of slippers and an English-Chinese dictionary. The call lasted about 6 minutes. Everything seemed perfectly normal. No one could have known. That would be the last time Huang Shuying would ever hear her daughter's voice. Just like that, the energetic, smiling little girl vanished into thin air amidst the hustle of the busy market. Singapore was rocked by her sudden disappearance. How could a bright, independent 8-year-old like Huang Na simply vanish without a trace? Or worse, had something horrific happened to her? The last time anyone saw Huang Na, she was barefoot, wearing a blue denim jacket and Bermuda shorts, quietly walking past a small coffee stall. A worker at CB Lim, who had known her for a while, recalled, "I asked her why she wasn't wearing slippers. She just smiled and walked off. I never imagined that would be the last time I'd see her." 2 days later, upon hearing the devastating news, Huang Shuying rushed back to Singapore. Her heart was filled with anxiety, unaware that a much bigger tragedy awaited. As soon as she landed, she began searching frantically, carrying photos of her daughter, asking anyone who might have seen her. She even followed clues from dreams, one in which her daughter appeared crying, saying she was trapped in the mountains. Desperate, Shuying searched hills across Singapore, including Bukit Timah and Mount Faber, clinging to even the slimmest hope. "I don't understand why anyone would want to hurt my child. I'm just a single mother, working hard so my daughter could go to school. I've never made enemies with anyone," she sobbed. The Singapore police swiftly launched an investigation, combing through places Huang Na often visited: West Coast Park, IMM Mall, and more. Missing person posters were plastered all over hospitals, bus terminals, even logistics companies, hoping someone might recognize her and offer a lead. The case touched the hearts of the public. A retired businessman, with no ties to the family, offered a $10,000 reward for any helpful information. Another donor added $5,000. The search widened rapidly and media attention grew. Joseph Tan, founder of the Crime Library, a volunteer group specializing in missing persons, mobilized his team to distribute flyers near the area where Huang Na disappeared. Flyers passed from hand to hand, reaching every corner of Singapore. A web designer volunteered to create a dedicated website for Huang Na's case, compiling all updates and spreading her story even further. Even across the border in Malaysia, around 30 taxi drivers displayed search posters in their cabs. At least 5 cafe owners in Johor Jaya, Taman Yu, and Skudai hung up posters at their shops to help spread awareness. Every small clue, every glimmer of hope, the community came together, desperate to bring Huang Na home. But days turned to weeks and still no sign of her. The unanswered question remained, where was Huang Na? Had someone kidnapped her, or was there a deeper, darker truth? The deeper the investigation went, the more painful the discoveries became. From the beginning, police questioned everyone connected to Huang Na, anyone who might hold a clue. One name, in particular, raised red flags. Tuk Leng Hao, a 22-year-old Malaysian man who worked as a packer at the Pasir Panjang wholesale market, the very place Huang Na frequented. He wasn't a stranger to the family. In fact, Huang Na affectionately called him Uncle Tuk. Tuk told police that on the day she went missing, he saw 4 strangers abduct her. But something felt off. After being called in for questioning 3 times, Tuk suddenly vanished, prompting an intense manhunt. His father, a 52-year-old fast food vendor in Malaysia, told the media that his son had called home to insist he wasn't involved and only fled because he couldn't handle the pressure from police. Tuk's Indonesian wife, Yu Lee, said she also received a call. In it, Tuk claimed another person had kidnapped Huang Na and that the last time he saw the girl, he had given her 2 mangoes and sent her on her way. His younger brother described Tuk as shy and quiet, not the kind of person who could hurt anyone, let alone kill a child. But the truth told a much darker story. After 9 days on the run, Tuk Leng Hao surrendered to authorities in Penang. He was extradited to Singapore on October 30, 2004, for questioning. Police strongly suspected that Tuk was not only involved in Huang Na's disappearance, but had actually killed her. Then, on October 31st, exactly 3 weeks after Huang Na went missing, a special team of 20 officers began searching the area near Teluk Blangah Hill Park, following information given by Tuk himself. About 30 minutes into the search, at around 10:30 a.m., they found a cardboard box hidden in thick shrubbery. The box, sealed tightly with tape and measuring 50 by 40 by 30 centimeters, looked just like those used to pack produce at the wholesale market. But what drew attention was the foul stench leaking from inside. When officers opened it, they were horrified. Inside was the lifeless body of a young girl, naked, tied, curled up in a fetal position. There was no doubt it was Huang Na. Her body was immediately sent for autopsy, which confirmed that she had been murdered before being stuffed into the box. Tuk Leng Hao was arrested and charged with murder. Based on his confession, police continued their investigation and uncovered signs of a struggle inside a storeroom at the market, a space rented by Tuk's employer to store dry goods. Investigators believed this was the true crime scene. On November 5th, Tuk was escorted back to the Pasir Panjang Wholesale Center for a crime scene reenactment. With his hands cuffed tightly, he was surrounded by police officers and watched closely, not only by law enforcement, but by a furious public whose outrage was palpable. Just a few days later, on November 8th, more than 1,000 people attended Huang Na's funeral. Among them were strangers, people who had never met the little girl, yet still showed up to pay their respects, mourning the loss of an innocent life stolen so cruelly. Her coffin was adorned with plush Hello Kitty toys, her favorite character. The funeral procession passed through the places she once visited so often, a symbolic farewell to the life she never got to finish. Some mourners even brought sweets and snacks, treats Huang Na used to love. They gently placed them beside her coffin, as if to offer her a final taste of childhood joy, even in the afterlife. Huang Na's death was not only a national tragedy, it was a chilling reminder of how vulnerable children can be, even around people we think we can trust. On July 11, 2005, the trial of Tuk Leng Hao officially began, drawing massive public attention across Singapore. This case wasn't just another murder. It was a haunting tale that had pierced the heart of the nation. According to investigators, around noon on October 10, 2004, the day Huang Na vanished, Tuk was seen walking with her near the wholesale center. He had a bag of mangoes in hand and appeared friendly, just like he always had been around the little girl. Some workers were puzzled to see Tuk there on a Sunday, as there wasn't much work scheduled that day. But no one suspected that he was about to commit a monstrous crime. During his confession, Tuk claimed that around 1:40 p.m., he lured Huang Na into the warehouse, pretending they were going to play hide-and-seek. It was a secluded spot, perfect for carrying out his sickening plan. He gave her mangoes to eat, traces of which were later found in her stomach during the autopsy. Then, when Huang Na least expected it, Tuk stripped off her clothes, tied her limbs using raffia string, and sexually assaulted her. Fearing she might survive and tell someone, Tuk covered her mouth and nose with his hands for over 2 minutes until she suffocated. But he didn't stop there. He pressed his body against hers and even kicked her small frame to make sure she was dead. After the murder, Tuk wrapped her body in 9 layers of plastic bags, placed it inside a cardboard box, and sealed it tightly with tape. It was still daylight, and dumping the body immediately would have been too risky. So Tuk calmly waited until 5:30 p.m., acting like nothing had happened. Later that evening, he borrowed a coworker's motorcycle, rode back home to Teluk Blangah, and casually watched TV. By 8 p.m., he returned to the warehouse, secretly loaded the box with Huang Na's body, and headed toward Teluk Blangah Hill Park, a quiet, deserted area at night. There, he dumped the box in the bushes and tried to cover any trace of his actions before returning the motorcycle to his coworker by 9 p.m. Meanwhile, back at the wholesale center, Ms. Li Shu-chin, the woman Huang Na's mother had asked to look after her daughter, started growing anxious. Huang Na had disappeared all afternoon and hadn't returned. By 10 p.m., she reported the girl missing to police. But no one could have imagined that Huang Na's tiny body was already lying cold and lifeless in a box on a lonely hill. On August 26, 2005, after 13 intense days in court, the judge reached a verdict. Tuk Leng Hao was guilty of premeditated murder and sentenced to death. Although his defense attorneys tried to argue that Tuk suffered from mental illness and sought to have his sentence reduced to life imprisonment, a panel of psychiatric experts concluded that he was fully sane and aware of his actions during the time of the crime. Tuk filed an appeal, but it was swiftly rejected. The Singapore High Court upheld the death penalty for this brutal killer. On November 3, 2006, Tuk Leng Hao was taken to Changi Prison, where he was hanged. Justice served for the life he had stolen. The monster had finally paid the price. But for Huang Na's mother and those who loved the little girl, the pain never truly ended. Her tragic death wasn't just another case. It was a stark warning about the hidden dangers that can lurk behind even the friendliest of faces. Although the trial ended with Tuk's execution, the aftermath of the case continued to stir controversy and painful whispers. The focus soon shifted to Huang Na's mother, Madame Huang Shuying, who found herself under the spotlight, and not in a good way. After the tragedy, parts of her past were brought back into the public eye, including her history of illegal immigration into Singapore. Back in 1999, while visiting her husband, Wong Kang-long, in Singapore, she discovered he was cheating on her. Instead of returning to China, she decided to stay and find work. However, her visa was short-term, and she was later caught overstaying and deported. But she was determined to come back. Following advice from a former cellmate, Huang Shuying burned her fingerprints by pressing her right fingers and left ring finger onto a red-hot iron plate. Then she paid $8,000 to a human trafficking syndicate to sneak herself and Huang Na back into Singapore. When the murder happened, her illegal status came to light, prompting strict warnings from authorities. By the end of November 2004, she was forced to take her daughter's ashes back to Fujian, China. But the controversies didn't stop there. Questions swirled around her second husband, Zheng Wenhai, who had a criminal record. Right after Huang Na's death, he showed up in Singapore, clutching her photo and putting on a heart-wrenching display for the media. Some newspapers accused him of playing a role for sympathy. Suspicion deepened after the couple returned to China. Media outlets soon reported that Madame Huang had used donated money to build a luxurious 4-story villa, complete with a garage, rock garden, and courtyard. Many questioned how a grieving mother could abandon her child alone in a foreign country, fueling accusations that her negligence contributed to the tragedy. Even more shockingly, internet rumors suggested that she might have been the real killer, orchestrating her daughter's murder for insurance money. Others theorized that she made a secret deal with Tuk, who took the blame in exchange for financial gain. Still, most people dismissed these as baseless rumors. After all, Madame Huang wasn't even in Singapore when the murder occurred. In response to accusations that she misused donations, she claimed that the $126,000 raised was spent mainly on her daughter's funeral, fulfilling her child's wishes, and donating to charities. The rest was used to renovate her home. She also clarified that the 4-story house mentioned by media outlets was inherited from her husband's family. She merely added an extra floor to see her daughter's resting place on the hillside from her window. In 2009, reports emerged that Madame Huang and Zheng Wenhai had 2 more children. After losing Huang Na, she became overly protective and fearful, dedicating herself fully to raising her new kids, desperate not to let history repeat itself. Despite the swirling rumors and accusations, many still believed Madame Huang deeply loved her daughter and did all she could to protect her. Yet her past, the questions around her parenting decisions, and how she handled public donations remain subjects of lingering debate. The tragedy of Huang Na is not just a family's heartbreak. It's a painful lesson in parental responsibility and a grim reminder of the hidden threats that exist in society.